Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Star. Today, we are going to be discussing a few things, actually, but we're going to be starting off with the head coaching carousel. So first job that is open for the taking, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. So obviously, Urban Meyer was fired during the season because he completely screwed up the locker room culture and was generally hated. And they're interested in hiring quite a few, actually, a surprising amount of coaches that none of these coaches I was really expecting. Like Doug Peterson was unexpected. Same with Jim Caldwell. Anybody see Bill O'Brien coming back into the cycle? Anybody see that coming?
That was crazy. I mean, he was like the offensive coordinator at Alabama, but I don't think he's even been doing like a great job there.
He's been doing a pretty good job. I mean, Bryce Young won Heisman with like 45 touchdowns or something, so he's not doing horribly there. But like,
yeah, I guess.
Who would have seen? Who would have seen that comeback? Who had that come back on their bingo list?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's Alabama, so like
it's Alabama, so you are kind of.
I mean, but that's like why every former NFL coach goes to Alabama, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do we think about this?
I think the best option here for them is, I think Kellen Moore will be a good one, despite his decision that cost the Cowboys a shot at it with the draw up the middle.
Yeah.
That was a horrible play call, by the way. And Dak didn't hand it to the ref, which the ref needs to touch it between plays. So, double screw.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, Doug Peterson seems like a good fit. He knows how to create a winning team, but and he knows how to create good defenses too. So
yeah, the only problem with that is I just worry like how much of his was Frank Reich and who was the other guy? There's another guy that was on his coaching staff. I remember seeing a lot of stuff about how as soon as they left, the Eagles kind of fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
I just kind of worry about that. But yeah, and he's definitely not a bad coach, and he'll do good to see him. I think he'll help Trevor get better.
Yeah, but I think the Jacksonville job is pretty attractive. I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked great this year, but he certainly is very promising. So
and he flashed talent in that game against the Colts at the end there.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that was what he should be, as opposed to what we saw weeks 1 through 17. That's his ceiling.
Yeah. So should we move on to the Broncos?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Broncos obviously fired Vic Fangio, and then they've interviewed a few guys as well. Gerard Mayo, who's the Pats linebacker coach, Dan Quinn, Cowboys defensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who actually I think could be getting quite a few head coaching.
Yeah, and he's getting I know he got interviewed for the Jaguars job as well.
Yeah. And then Kellen Moore, Eric Bieniemy, obviously. Jonathan Gannon, Kevin O'Connell, Luke Getsy, Aaron Glenn. Okay, so off of that list, I think Dan Quinn and Nathaniel Hackett and Kellen Moore, I guess. Actually, and Eric Bieniemy, all four of them could be. They're obviously very high-profile guys.
Yeah. I kind of like Gerard Mayo as a head coaching candidate. I think he's gonna do good in the NFL, because he has that kind of knowledge already from being a linebacker for the Patriots for so long, and he studied under him. It's just a question of which kind of coach is he gonna turn into. Is he gonna? So you have coaches like Bill O'Brien coming from under the tree. Basically, is whether he'll turn into a Bill O'Brien, Matt Patricia type coach, or a Flores type coach. Where I think the only reason why Flores got fired, and we'll talk about this later, was because of his mismanagement and the fact that he kind of burnt some bridges.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but it's which of those two coaches will he become, because there's a lot of room there. But I think Gerard Mayo could be a promising head coach next year. Also, Eric Bieniemy, I think this is the final of the year. I think Broncos have a reason to sign him as well. I mean, think about it. Like, not only are you getting your new head coach, a guy who's come from a system of consistent success. I mean, he's done great since Alex Smith. You're also stealing one of your rivals' offensive coordinator. That's a double win for them.
Yeah.
True.
All right, do we have any last thoughts?
Nope.
All right.
No.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Vikings then. Mike Zimmer.
So the Vikings
just
did
got fired,
the Vikings did a complete purge of their thing. They fired their GM as well.
yeah.
But yeah.
So they interviewed Todd Bowles, obviously big name defensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, Kevin O'Connell, Nathaniel Hackett again, Jonathan Gannon, D'Amico Ryans, and then Dan Quinn. So all those guys getting looks.
I'm gonna say it here. I don't get why Dan Quinn's getting so many looks. Because I mean he did decent as a head coach, but like he had a tendency for mismanagement in the later half of the game. And Atlanta was blowing games up the wazoo last time he was the head coach.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think it's one of those mismanagement. Also, and I get that the Cowboys defense is being great this year. I just don't. I think you got to look at his tenure as a head coach before, and it hasn't been great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Vikings job is pretty good. Their quarterback obviously is pretty decent. That defense needs a lot of work, but yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the a good job for them to take.
Yeah. If nothing else, we can move on to the Bears. Matt Nagy just got fired, obviously.
Finally.
Yeah.
Deserved the cut since forever. Their offense has been horrible for the entire time he's been there. Should have been fired last year.
Yeah. They've interviewed Leslie Frazier, Brian Dable, Doug Peterson, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, to both Bucks coordinators. Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Eberfluss, Brian Flores, and then Dan Quinn, Jim Caldwell. I think Brian Flores really deserves another shot. So I think
the reason why he got fired, from what I've kind of read, the reason why he got fired from the Dolphins was because him and the GM both wanted to go separate ways on their quarterback. And basically, because Flores, from what I could tell, was all in on getting Watson, and the GM wanted to keep Tua for at least another year, maybe two, and actually try and get him up. Which is why he got fired, and he was kind of causing, that's something you can't have. You can't have tension between your coach, GM, and quarterback. That's just something that is never a good sign. But yeah, I mean, they did pretty well this year. I mean, after that slow start, they won 7-8 games in a row, went 8-1 their last 9 weeks. Yeah. He's probably gonna get another job. At least at bare minimum as a coordinator, probably as a head coach.
All right, moving on to the Dolphins. As we said before, Brian Flores got fired, and I liked his job in Miami. I just don't think he had the tools to win more than 9 games. And he did the best he could. But yeah, what do you guys think on potential hirings?
I like Kellen Moore here, despite his. The more I think about it, the more Kellen Moore. I mean, he's been on the head coaching list for a couple of years, and the more I think about him, the more sense it makes. Because I mean, Dak's pretty good. I mean, their worst offensive season was last year when Dak was injured for the majority of it. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the Dolphins really on this list. Obviously, I think Brian Dable stands out. Maybe if you want I think they fired Brian Flores though, so that they could get an offensive guy. So I think any of the defensive guys on this list probably aren't going to be chosen.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on to the Giants now, who just fired Joe Judge. That was a kind of shock firing, and they haven't interviewed anyone yet. But yeah, what do you guys think about the Giants job?
The only shock about it for me was how long it took them. I mean, they've been bad both years. I mean, I think that Joe Judge was costing them game. I mean, just mismanagement the whole time.
Yeah.
And it looks like they
I
haven't.
think he deserved to get fired, but also it wasn't expected because they came out and said he wouldn't be.
Yeah, that was a shock about it.
And it looks like they haven't really interviewed anyone either.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the Texans. David Culley getting fired, also in kind of a shock move that he did pretty well. I think the only reason he probably got fired was like at the end of, or at the beginning of this year, the Texans kind of front office had decided that Culley would be fired after his first season, because they didn't expect him to do great or whatever. But they've only yeah.
Go ahead.
So they've only interviewed Brian Flores, Joe Lombardi, and then Hines Ward, but that's it.
Well, the thing about Coley is they expected him to go to the playoffs. Like, I don't think he could have done anything more other than get a winning season. Like, this team is the team. Yeah, I mean, you have to admit this team is not a good team, and they expected him to do really good with him. And I thought he was a great coach. So Culley, I believe, could end up being a head coach elsewhere, or at least offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I don't know if he's offensive minded or defensive minded.
Yeah, I
but
think he is offensive minded.
Yeah, at the very least, get an offensive coordinating job somewhere. But yeah, I think he was a good coach.
He was a good coach. I mean, he dragged them kicking and screaming.
All right, so the last but not least, the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, Rich Bisaccia did a really nice job with them. They haven't interviewed anyone yet. I think Rich Bisaccia could honestly be a long shot to get that job again. I think he's a really good interim coach.
I think he should be the front runner for it. I mean, he killed it this year. I mean, he dragged one of the most dysfunctional team this year somehow. He dragged them into the playoffs. I mean, and from what I can tell, all the players loved him. I think he's gonna be the front runner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is it for our coaching carousel. That's our coaching carousel for today. Okay, and we're back. So let's talk about the college football playoff expansion, the potential one anyway. This is a graphic of what the playoffs would have looked like if there was a 12-team playoff, with the first 4 teams getting a bye. What do you guys think about a potential playoff expansion, and are you for it or against it?
I'm for it, but it needs some changes to the current college football landscape. I'll explain that in a second.
Yeah. So,
I assume you guys are all for it. So the problem right now with the college football playoff expansion, the reason why the ACC has already said no to it, at least for now, the main reason is how many extra games. So let's just go with Ole Miss because it's hot there, right? And you somehow make it all the way through the thing. Instead of just making the playoffs like normally and winning the championship. So with that, you're playing 15 games, 16 games, maybe, probably 15 games, right?
Yeah.
You're now playing 17 games, which players don't particularly want to do because that's so much more chance for injury. So what you do to counter that is most of the wild card teams more than likely are not making it to the championship game, right? Like there's a serious step down between Alabama, Baylor, Michigan, Cincinnati. I think there's a major step down, at least Alabama, Baylor, Michigan, right? There's a major step down from that to Utah, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. There's a huge step down there, right?
Yeah, there is.
So take out conference championship games. So conference championship game, at least in most divisions, is utterly pointless. Like the only one that really mattered this year was the Cincinnati one where they needed to win to get it. But Alabama, Georgia, they were probably both guessing it.
Yeah.
And most of the other ones were of teams that were either already eliminated or, most of the ones were teams that were already eliminated or just straight blowouts. So get rid of conference championship week. Now you are down to a max of 14 games. So now you're only adding a net of 1 game, even if you make it from the quarterfinals. I mean, even for the first rounds of the championship game, you're only adding 1 game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think also the thing with the playoffs expansion could be like now, like you can't really give the excuse of the number 13 team would have won the championship. Like the excuse of the number 5 team, like for example, like Ohio State, if they were like in the playoffs this year, they could have potentially challenged Michigan or even Cincinnati if they played them, right? But so like the number 13 team though, they like that excuse is gone now. If this was to happen.
I mean, this is the best season that Pitt's had in forever. This is far and away.
Yeah.
And I think they would have been a challenger to a team like Georgia. Honestly, I think they probably would have lost against Georgia, but it still would have been a challenge. They would have definitely contended with Utah or I think they would have beat Utah, honestly, if they played them.
And then from the financial aspect, I think that really the people that organize these games and stuff, they're all like millionaires, billionaires, right?
Oh, yeah.
All they want really is more money, and this gives them more TV deals, more hype really around everything, more tickets sold for the colleges. So I think everything points to just the expansion bringing benefit to everyone. Obviously, the players might not want to play that many games, but also like if you're a lower level team, you probably don't mind it because you're probably going to lose in the first or second round.
And what you can do there, the trick with that is give the players like some sort of like a bonus. Like say your team makes it to the quarterfinals, you get every single player on the team gets X amounts. Or something along those lines to make it actually worth it for the players. Because they can pay it. I mean, when they sign this deal, it's going to be a couple $2 billion are going to go into this for sure.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like expanding the playoffs just because like it's not, we don't want to see the exact same 4 teams over and over again every year. It gives more opportunity to schools that deserve a chance. Like, I mean, Pitt this year was unbelievable. I mean, but they didn't make the playoffs just because, or they didn't make the Final Four, whatever you want to call it, just because Alabama obviously makes it every year, and Cincinnati, another team that doesn't make it every year, but they had another great year. But I feel like it just expands, makes it more interesting to watch. Yeah.
And the thing is, most likely you'll still have Alabama make it to the playoffs, make it to the championship game every year. You'll have that more likely than not. But it opens up the door for less of it. Like, there's always this chance for upset. I mean, look at this season. I mean, Alabama lost to Texas A&M with a backup quarterback. They almost lost to Auburn. It just opens up that door for more challenges.
And what makes the NFL playoffs so fun to watch is like upsets. Like, it'd be cool to see Ole Miss in like the national championship. Ole Miss and whatever, like Ole Miss in Pittsburgh or Ole Miss in Utah, whatever.
And one thing maybe they could do is like a consolation ladder, right? Or like if they don't do like a playoff expansion, they should do like a thing where with the rest of maybe like 12, like from the teams that are ranked 5 through 16 or something, they should have their own bracket for like I don't know, maybe just like have them play it and through it if you don't want to disturb like the playoffs themselves. That could be another.
True.
Also, so back to the point of getting rid of the conference championship game. One thing you could do here, since the kind of proposed idea would be the top 3 winners or top 4 conference championships, right? So that would be Alabama, Baylor, Michigan, Cincinnati this year. They all make it in. Well, what you do instead of if you're not going to get rid of conference championship, which I don't think they really want to do, but I think they should get rid of East and West divisions, because more likely than not, in most of these conferences, the 2 better teams are in the same division. I mean, you had Michigan this year playing Iowa in the championship game. Nobody wants that. They want to see Michigan and Michigan State go out again. They want to see Michigan and Ohio State. They don't want all these teams that are in one side of the USA not play each other just in the conference championship game, because they I just completely fell in my words there. Just because they're in a different part of the country.
Yeah. All right. So, do we have any last thoughts on this before we end today?
No, I think we covered it all.
There's a fair shot that this won't happen until the college football playoffs contract comes back up, because that comes up 2025, I think. So that's 3 seasons between then and now. So I don't know how willing college football will be to renegotiate this. Also, I think they want to expand it to be not just ESPN with the playoffs. Yeah. If they're doing it with this many games, I think they want to expand it to CBS or ABC just to get more money in the pots.
That's true, yeah. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching. This was our first ever episode of our podcast. And we'll see you next time on the Sports Star. See you.
See you.
See you.